let's do the next step. So I've got 3 layers of purple on here. My plate is now matte and dry. And I'm gonna play around and deviate from my sketch just a little bit. So I want to be able to show you masking and stenciling. So when I put the heart down here and painted over it, that is masking. I masked the plate and then I painted a color all around it. When I peel off that paper at the end, that will still be white because I covered up the clay. Now what I'm going to show you is stenciling. So I have this heart stencil that I've created. So I actually folded my paper and cut it so that I would have a stencil. You can do that, or you can use something like an X-Acto knife to cut the paper without cutting it open, or you can cut it and then tape it back together so that it is a stencil. So there are many different ways to approach creating your stencil. Be creative and problem solve how you can make your stencil at home. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this down where it matches what I've already got, and I'm going to, just like before, kind of wet my paper so that it sticks down. And I want to focus on making sure that the inside is good. The outside edges of this paper don't really matter because I'm not going to be painting out there. So I'm kind of rubbing this into place on the inside, sticking it down as best as I can. And if I kind of mess up the underglaze here, it's not a huge deal because I'm about to paint it again. And I do have a few gaps just because this is a, not perfectly flat surface. So I'm going to do my best to not have that problem come back to bite me later. All right, so I have a different color here. I have aqua, and I'm going to paint inside of this so that where I paint inside the stencil is going to be in color. And this is a light color. So if I was planning well, I would have definitely done this color before I did the darker purple color. And for this, I don't want to over scrub because my stencil didn't stick down perfectly. I'm gonna have to make some adjustments at the end. So I want to make sure that I just try to lay the glaze or the underglaze on top. I don't want to accidentally push some underneath that stencil. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry, but by the time I put enough coats on here, I think it is going to cover up the purple that's underneath. But right now, you can definitely see my brush strokes because you can see the purple underneath. I think you can see that on camera, the purple. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to have to do multiple coats of this, just like on the first one. On the first coat with my purple, I could see the clay. So on this one with my first coat with the aqua, I can definitely see the purple showing through. So we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to continue doing the coats of blue. We're going to do 3 coats of blue, and then I'm going to show you the next part of my design. Hello, ceramic students. We are going to finish the design on our plate. So if you look at my plate, I've wrapped the extra newspaper underneath it, and it is dry. It's not picking up any reflection from the light, but my clay is still leather hard. So if I were to stick my fingernail in the edge, it would make a mark. You don't want the edges to turn white. You don't want the edges to get past leather hard. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to finish your piece. So what I'm going to do for mine to kind of finish it up, remember I added the heart and the stencil, is I'm actually going to very carefully remove that stencil. I'm just peeling the paper up and it tore. It's not something we can't fix. All right, and I have a little bit of area in here where the underglaze went where it wasn't supposed to, so I'm going to have to clean that up later. But let's go ahead and move on to the black. So before I do the black, I'm going to mix I'm going to mix. I'm going to mask the areas that I want to stay purple. So I'm taking my paper and actually covering up those areas. And I'm actually going to use the black underglaze to kind of help stick down my stencils, because for whatever reason, they're really having a hard time sticking this time around. All right, so I've got that one stuck down. I'm gonna wet this piece of paper, stick it where I want it, get it as well attached as I can. That one's actually staying, but let's go ahead and put some underglaze so it doesn't move on me. All right, then the same thing here. I want to be careful because I've got some underglaze on my finger and I got it on my paper and I was about to get it on my design. So you just got to be mindful of everything all the time. All right, so I've got that kind of stuck on there. Gonna make sure it's real secure with the underglaze. And you want to try to avoid what's happening with me right now is it's like picking up the paper, and that's how stuff gets underneath. All right. And now I'm going to take my underglaze, paint over this. And the nice thing about the color black is it's so dark that it's going to actually cover things a lot better than that blue was covering things earlier. So this is my first coat, but it's already looking pretty nice and dark. Okay, and then I've got to figure out what am I going to do here to fix my blue, but not cover up everything that I've done. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to very carefully outline my heart with the black, and that's going to cover up where I accidentally got blue where I didn't want it. So this is a lot like painting in that you get a little bit of that creative freedom to do things. And unlike paint, I just had a big old chunk of clay come out, so I'm going to get rid of that. So the thing about Underglaze is that unlike glaze, it is not high in silica. It's just clay or slip with some colorant added to it. So it's not going to do the same kind of like magical transformation that happens with glaze. So whatever kind of like mistakes or brush strokes or inconsistencies I have right now, it's not going to change. That's not going to magically go away in the kiln. The kiln's pretty magical, and this is going to undergo a chemical change to become ceramic, but it's not going to change the appearance of it. So anything that is imperfect right now is going to be imperfect when it comes out of the kiln. So what that means is I'm going to try my best to be as perfect as possible when working on my plate. So any kind of mistake, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I want to try to fix it. And what I probably should have done here is, because I'm trying to do this edge, I probably should have switched to one of the smaller brushes for detail. That would have made this a lot easier and go a little bit faster. And another thing about working with glaze is I always want to make sure I have a really loaded up brush so I can just kind of float on top. I don't want to be trying to like spread out glaze or underglaze when there's like nothing on my brush. So that's just frustrating, and it's just going to make it look streaky for no reason when you can just reach in there and load up your brush again. All right, and that is the top of my plate. Now, like I was saying earlier, I actually got glaze or underglaze on the side of my plate. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my brush and just add black around the edge, and that's going to cover up anywhere I got purple. So that's why I like using black. But you can use whatever color you're using on the top of your plate. But you know, little things that you can do like that to make your finished product look like you really thought about everything and painting them black so it doesn't look like an accident. Only y'all will know the truth. All right, now once I've got this coat on there, I'm gonna let that dry and do one more coat of the black, and then we're gonna have the big reveal later on. So that's it for now.
Please hang up and try again.